Welcome to Money Talks. I'm Sarah, and this is episode number 17.
Hey there.
In this deep dive, we're really getting into something central for, well, anyone trying to build anything, really. How do you flip those no's, and you always get no's, how do you turn them into a yes?
Mm-hmm. It's the core struggle, isn't it?
Totally. So we're looking at entrepreneurs who've navigated this, their struggles, yeah, but also their successes and the lessons we can all pull from that. And joining me is Alex.
Great to be here, yeah. Looking forward to digging in.
Awesome. So today we're focusing on someone maybe more known for like pure tech than, say, business school case studies. But his story is just packed with relevant stuff. Linus Torvalds.
Linux.
Yeah.
And Git. Yeah, massive SC.
Exactly. Huge technical wins. But we want to get behind that, you know? Look at the entrepreneurial challenges, the personal hurdles he actually faced building these things.
Right, because it wasn't straightforward. There's a lot there for anyone, really, trying to get something off the ground.
For sure. Those moments where you're staring down a no, maybe someone tells you it won't work, or maybe it's just that little voice in your head, you know?
Yeah, the self-doubt.
Exactly. So we've been looking at some articles, discussions about him, about how Linux developed, the whole open source scene around it.
No.
Okay, so let's dive in. His story, it didn't start with some grand 5-year plan, did it?
No, not at all. Quite the opposite, really. It's kind of amazing when you think back. 1991, he starts Linux. He's what, 21? A student.
Just 21.
Yeah, and it was literally just a personal project, a hobby, no investors, no market analysis, nothing like that. Just him tinkering because he wanted to.
Which makes what it became even crazier almost. And he just posts about it on some internet news group.
Right, can you imagine just, hey, I'm working on this thing.
Like, here it is, no big launch party, more like an open invitation, right, for other geeks, basically.
Pretty much, and that actually connects to something interesting from one source. This is how Linux was made. Lesson number 1 was basically, don't underestimate simple ideas.
Never discount their potential power. I liked that. Why do you think we do that? Why do we kind of dismiss those small starting points sometimes?
Well, I think maybe we're often looking for the big disruption, the huge vision right from day one.
Yeah, the billion-dollar idea.
Exactly. But I mean, often the really powerful stuff comes from just solving your own problem, right? Scratching your own itch. Linus wasn't trying to build a giant company. He just wanted an OS he could use.
And that drive, that personal motivation must be so key when you're starting out. And let's face it, nobody else really cares yet.
Oh, absolutely. It's that internal engine. Which leads to another point from that source, lesson 2. Pursue your passions and success will follow suit.
Right. It wasn't about the fame initially anyway, or getting rich. It sounds like it was genuinely about the love of coding, of making something work. How vital is that intrinsic stuff when you're facing down those first no's, like the doubts, the lack of support?
It's everything, I think. Passion gives you that grit, to keep going when it's tough, when people are skeptical, when things break.
Yeah.
If you're just in it for the money or the applause, those early roadblocks can just completely derail you. His enjoyment of the process kept him going.
And it wasn't like Linux just appeared fully formed, right? It wasn't an overnight sensation.
No, far from it. The growth was slow, gradual. Linus himself has apparently said there wasn't like one single moment where it took off.
Interesting.
It was this steady, cumulative thing. Effort, interest building over time. There's a ZDNet piece that touches on this too, lesson 8. Something like perseverance pays off. Which
feels important today, right? We hear so much about instant success, unicorn companies.
Yeah, it's a good counter-narrative. Building something really solid, really meaningful, it often takes years. It's a long haul.
And think about all the little no's along that road. Bugs, features that don't pan out, criticism.
Right, and you just have to keep plugging away, keep iterating, keep improving. That's the key.
Okay, so initially it's just him, coding, apparently in his bathrobe.
Huh? Yeah, the TED interview mentions that, the solitary coder image.
Almost romantic, yeah. But he didn't start at thinking collaboration, did he?
No, it was his thing. But then there was this shift. He called it the big point.
Okay.
Not when Linux hit, like millions of users.
Yeah.
But when this small group, maybe 10 people, maybe up to 100, actually started getting involved. That was the turning point for him.
Ah, interesting. So getting that first little bit of buy-in from others.
Yeah, validated the work, brought in fresh eyes, new ideas.
And these weren't just users, right? They were actually starting to contribute code, build it with him.
Exactly, and that community aspect is huge.
Well,
ZDNet really hammers this home. They even mentioned Ubuntu means community.
Right.
Lesson 6 there is all about building community being crucial. That early group kept it alive, really.
So how did they manage that little early community? Coordinating that, contributing effectively, that must have had its own challenges, its own potential no's.
I think the shared passion was huge. They weren't getting paid, right?
Yeah.
They were just excited by the project, like him. ZDNet has lessons on this too. It's about sharing. It's about caring. That whole spirit.
So it wasn't like traditional marketing pushing it.
No, not at all. Just organic, word of mouth, people getting excited. ZDNet lesson 4 mentions that too.
Okay, but then it grows from 100 people to eventually thousands contributing. How do you even manage that? That sounds like a potential no right there, the sheer scale.
Right, and that's where Git comes from.
Oh,
The community growth created this massive scaling problem.
Yeah.
How do you handle code coming in from all over, from potentially thousands of developers, without it becoming chaos? Git was his solution to that specific no.
Wow, so the problem directly forced the innovation.
Pretty much. Turning that logistical headache into, well, a tool the whole world uses now.
Incredible. Okay, so leading this huge, passionate, distributed group, his leadership style, it's not exactly your typical CEO playbook, is it?
No, definitely not. The How Linux Was Made source has another lesson here, number 4. Truly effective leadership requires cultivating trust. His approach seems much more about empowering people, trusting their expertise.
Not micromanaging.
Right, it's very different from top-down control.
And he's described himself as like fundamentally an engineer, focused on the immediate problem. Fixing the pothole that's right in front of me, I think he said in that TED Talk.
Yeah, very pragmatic, almost. Anti-visionary. Not worried about the 5-year plan.
What's the strength in that kind of fix what's broken now approach when you're trying to build something big?
Well, it keeps you nimble, doesn't it? You can react quickly. Instead of being locked into some rigid grand scheme, you adapt to what's actually happening on the ground. In tech, that moves so fast. The flexibility is huge.
Okay, but then there's the other side. Some Reddit discussions brought this up. His reputation for sometimes being, well, really blunt, harsh even, in his feedback on code he doesn't like.
Yeah, the mailing list rants are legendary.
How does that fit with building a community? Couldn't that be a no in itself, like scaring people off?
It's a fair question. And yeah, his directness can definitely rub people the wrong way. But often, if you look at the context, it's usually when someone's broken a fundamental rule, like don't break user space, the basic stability contract.
So it's not just, I don't like your coding style.
Not usually. It's more about protecting the core integrity, the stability of the whole kernel. So while it might seem harsh, it also sets a really clear high bar for quality and correctness.
A kind of tough love for the project's sake?
Maybe, yeah. And that benevolent dictator for life title, it's a bit jokey, but it reflects that understanding, right? That ultimately someone has to make the hard calls to keep the project coherent.
Right. There needs to be a final decision maker.
Exactly. Debate is fine, even encouraged, but you need someone to resolve things.
Okay, so even with all this success, Linux didn't just arrive and it was done. It faced ongoing technical no's, right?
Oh, constantly. That ZDNet piece from LinuxCon back in 2010 was talking about ongoing issues, next-gen scalability, networking demands, even for something that mature.
It really shows that overcoming obstacles isn't just a one-off thing at the start.
Absolutely not. Tech keeps moving. New challenges pop up. The no of yesterday's architecture not being good enough for tomorrow. That's always there. You have to keep adapting.
And the Reddit thread also mentioned something interesting. The kernel code itself getting so complex over time that it's actually hard for new people to jump in. That's a different kind of no, isn't it? A barrier to entry.
Yeah, that's a real challenge for mature, complex projects.
Right.
How do you keep the door open for newcomers?
So how do you fight that no?
It takes deliberate effort, I think.
Yeah.
Better documentation, finding ways to onboard new people more easily, mentorship from the existing community.
Yeah.
Actively trying to lower that barrier.
But despite all these hurdles, these constant no's, Linux went from that kid's hobby project to running, like huge chunks of the internet, servers, phones.
Yeah, ZDNet Lesson 10 called it the underdog that became a champion, especially in the business world. It's pretty remarkable.
Definitely inspiring. And a big part of navigating all that seems to be how Torvalds handled feedback, that release early, release often idea.
Yes, crucial. Which ties right back to How Linux Was Made, Lesson 5, acknowledging feedback as an opportunity for growth.
The whole open source way of doing things, like described in that roadmap source, it's built on that cycle, isn't it? Idea, design, build,
And
test.
feedback from the community.
Improve it, release again. It's like a system designed to find the no's, the bugs, the bad ideas, and fix them.
Exactly. Peer review, which is central to open source, is all about finding weaknesses and figuring out, together, how to make it better. It's a powerful way to tackle problems.
So when we look back at Linus Torvalds' story, it's just full of overcoming these no's, isn't it? The initial, it's just a hobby, the massive challenge of building and then managing a worldwide community.
Yeah, the constant technical walls you hit, needing to keep changing, keep adapting based on what people are telling you.
And the lessons there seem so widely applicable. That power of just starting with something you're passionate about, even if it seems small.
And how vital community and collaboration are. You often can't overcome the big no's alone.
Plus that pragmatic, fix the next problem approach.
And being genuinely open to feedback as a way to get better, not seeing it as just criticism.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? About those times in your own work or life where you hit a wall, a no that feels final.
Yeah.
How could these ideas, starting small but with passion, finding your people, focusing on the next step, listening to feedback, how could they help you maybe find a way around or through that no, maybe turn it into a yes?
Worth considering, that little side project you've ignored, that slightly odd idea,
Yeah.
maybe it has more potential than you think.
Definitely something to mull over. Thanks for exploring this with us today.